We ready to go? All
You're
right,
good.
Let's do it. All right. Good evening, everyone. Let's call the meeting to order, and we'll do a pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Let's do a roll call. Who do I have here? Let's have people say their names out loud.
Oh, I'm Molly Rhodes, council member for Ward 1.
Justice McCray, council member for Ward 2.
George Mansfield.
Lee Kiriakou.
Hello, Milwaukee, council member at large.
Wren, Ward 3.
All right, and Dan is ill and excused.
Dan's excused.
We have our city administrator. Do we have a city attorney online?
You do. Nick Ward Willis.
Good afternoon, good evening.
Hey, Nick.
Nick Ward Willis.
So welcome, everyone. So the first item is a community segment involving me. I will ask the council to, I'm going to go speak from behind us on the state of the city, and we'll get going. Okay. Everyone hear me all right? So thank you all. So I am offering my first State of the City, akin to what the county, the state, and the U.S. do each year, and what prior mayors have done. I saw Claire Lou Gould recently, and it reminded me, oh yeah, we could do this. So given that it is my first report, it will be a little longer, and will extend to include some items across my first 3 years as mayor. As we all experienced together, COVID hit less than 3 months into my tenure as mayor. It changed everyone's lives and focus, and with losses for many in different ways. As mayor, I had to shift from working on issues like weekend traffic on Main Street to providing regular broadcasts on COVID counts and precautions, keeping City Hall and city services operating safely, avoiding a total Main Street shutdown, and urging everyone to do their part and stick together. We also experienced a national desire to improve policing and civil rights, which challenged us all to take a long, hard look at ensuring fairness and compassion in policing while keeping us all safe. During these difficult times, everyone did their part. We stuck together. As a community, we have largely come through these trials better, not without loss or sacrifice, and not without government help, but also with accomplishing long-term improvements in how we live and work, how we treat one another, and how we ensure that no one is left behind. So on to the state of the city. Beacon, I am here to state that the city is in excellent condition. Here are the details, and if we can take a look up there, I'm going to cover 6 topics, starting with financial health. Those of you who know me know that I start on the finance side, because if we can keep our taxes down, we can do a lot of things. We'll go to public safety, infrastructure. There's an immense amount of investment that we're doing in Beacon right now. We'll move to quality of life, climate leadership, and then good government. So let me get started. Let me talk about our financial health. Beacon's financial position is the best in memory. Through my 20-plus years of service to the city as a council member and now as mayor, I have always been the taxpayer's fiscal watchdog, working to limit property tax increases while expanding services and investing in the city's infrastructure. First, I want to touch on new sales tax revenue. Last year, I negotiated a new 10-year sales tax sharing agreement with Dutchess County, which in 2023 alone is providing an additional $1 million in revenue to the city, and which will add $20 million to our budget over 10 years. So to put that into context, $1 million a year is almost 10% of our property taxes. This new revenue increase lets us hold the line on property taxes, add community services, and continue critical capital investments for Beacon's future. So if you see the chart on the top right, that's sales tax revenue by year, and you'll see a dip in the early years. That was the old 10-year agreement with the county, which hit us to the negative of almost $1 million. And then you see 2023 on the far right. That's our first bump, which is going from 4.6 million this year to 5.8. I'm sorry, 4.6 last year to 5.8 this year. And that's just the first year. As I said, it's about $20 million over a course of 10 years, more than $1 million in year one. So that puts us in very good stead. It allows us to do investments to cover additional expenses without asking taxpayers on the property tax to deliver more for them. Lower property tax rates. So the city's property tax rates, that's how much per thousand of assessed value you're charged, are at the lowest levels in at least a decade. It's actually a dozen years. And I'm committed to reducing them further to ensure that increasing property values don't increase your taxes. All right, so that's the chart on the bottom left. In that chart, there's two bars, there's two lines. The bottom line is the residential tax rate per $1,000 of assessed value. The top line is the commercial rate. So as you can see looking at that chart, the commercial rate is a good 1/3 to sometimes 50% higher than our residential rate. So we have two rates in Beacon, a higher one for commercial and apartments and a lower one for residences. That residential one is now dropped to $6.20 per $1,000 of assessed value, and will keep dropping as long as our property values keep rising and we don't raise our taxes too fast. Okay? Third, we have very low or no property tax increases. The mayor's budget for the last 3 years has kept the percentage increase in the city's total property taxes at or below the state tax cap of 2%, which allows us to add for new construction, and I'll talk about that shortly. The mayor, city and finance director, city administrator, and the finance director are committed to continue that trend. The city administrator, trying to keep up with me on sales tax, secured an additional $500,000 in annual water and sewer fees from non-resident users. Those are those trucks you see going up and down 9D that are hauling septage that we take on and charge for, which allows us to keep Beacon's water and sewer rates low. Just again, for context, that $500,000 is close to 10% of our water and sewer bills. Okay, so we're adding a lot there as well to kind of keep our expenses down. We have a great bond rating. Because our prudent financial investment, Beacon maintains a AA2 Moody's bond rating, which is one of the best of any municipalities in the region, and that allows the city to borrow at lower interest rates. We use that debt, that low interest debt, to invest in our community's future and are far ahead of other communities. We've also added to the tax rolls. In city, we and taxpayers both benefit from additions of more than $115 million in new construction to our assessment rolls in the last 3 years. This new construction has added 2 to 2.5% of new property tax revenue each year without increasing any existing property owner's tax bill, which the city uses to increase services and investment. The bottom right table there lays that out. So in those 3 years, 2021, 22, and 23, the first row is the increase in the total tax levy, meaning the total tax revenue that the city does. So we increase that total property tax bill 2.6%, 4.6%, and 1.7% those 3 years. However, a piece of that is from new construction. So that new construction, so for instance, in 2021, 2.6% was the increase in the total tax that we collected. Of that 2.6, 1.6 came from new construction, which meant that the portion that we're asking existing property owners to pay was only a 1% increase. The second year, also a 1% increase. This year, a 0% increase. Now, that doesn't mean all our property tax bills as residents are at zero, and in fact, a lot of homeowners will see a small increase because of some arcane split in how the commercial rate, that top line on that bottom left chart, and the residential rate vary by state law, which we have no control over. But the good news is, so long as we continue that construction that we've been doing, the city gets the opportunity to increase our tax revenue without taxing our existing property owners. And we're going to keep figuring out how to use that effectively. Lastly, our 5-year capital plan. We developed and passed a full 5-year capital plan, and the first one in several budgets, which helps the city plan out our major investments, such as roads, sidewalks, dams, and more. And that's a baseline that we should be doing every year, and you'll be seeing that from us. So second, if you let me move on to public safety. First, just to comment that we are open and helping during COVID. In response to COVID, we work closely with city employees to safely keep open virtually all city services, including all city hall services, as well as our parks and public spaces. The city funded essential community support services, such as food pantry refrigerators, and provided Main Street restaurant seating for 2 seasons. We invested in ambulance services. For the first time ever, the mayor's budget added $200,000. That would be about a 2% tax increase if we hadn't funded it from other sources, to address a local ambulance service crisis. We both contracted for new advanced life support from a service called Ambulance, and are providing support to BVAC, Beacon Volunteer Ambulance Corps, as well. Firefighters, in my first months as mayor, we added 4 full-time career firefighters, and last year we created 4 lieutenant positions, which together ensure that we have round-the-clock coverage and command structure. We are in the process of hiring a new fire chief, and as I'll tell you later and show you a cool picture, we're building a new central fire station. And if you walk across the street, they're doing the demolition right now. Policing review and improvement. In response to the governor's executive order 203, the mayor created a diverse and representative police advisory committee, which produced a police reform plan and continues to review and recommend improvements to the city's policing. We also added mental health, domestic abuse, and addiction help support to policing. The mayor's budget added funding for a full-time mental health caseworker to our police department, which is one of only 2 in the county that have a mental health officer, caseworker, and our program is now a model for other communities. We also added a Help Not Handcuffs program for cases where addiction is involved, and we continue to partner to receive dedicated support for domestic abuse situations. We also added a civilian dispatch to the police department, which frees up officers to be out in the community. Let me just show you where those pictures are. I think if you see them, on the bottom left is Lashavius Dicker. He's our mental health caseworker assigned to the police department. On the top, there's our ambulance coverage, which again we funded. We've got a new rig on the top right with some help from our state assemblyman, so we've got a new fire truck. And then the ones below that are new officers either in the fire department. The fire one is the bottom right, including adding the granddaughter of one of our volunteer fire chiefs and the daughter of one of our fire chiefs. So it's a long-standing family tradition for the ladies. And then the other ones include our new lieutenants and then some of our police hires who are very local and include improvements to our diversity in our workforce. All right, let me keep going. If I can go on to infrastructure investment. Beacon's infrastructure is in the best shape it has been in for decades, and major projects are currently underway. The city of Beacon includes hundreds of millions of dollars in critical infrastructure, approximately 55 miles of roads and sidewalks, as well as underground water, stormwater and sewer pipes, 4 dams, 3 wells, a drinking water treatment plant, a wastewater treatment plant, a highway garage with equipment, parks and rec facilities, fire stations and trucks, police vehicles and equipment, municipal buildings and facilities. As you understand, it's probably $200 million of infrastructure, maybe more. The mayor's budget consistently prioritizes long-term investment in these resources, and the city administrator maximizes other funding sources to modernize city infrastructure without undue tax burden. There are some $40 million in infrastructure projects underway or beginning in 2023. Let me take you through the main ones. First, Main Street, for those everyone knows, for the first time in decades, we completed an end-to-end repaving of Main Street with multiple new pedestrian crossing improvements. As intended, the corner bump outs and the new striping for parking and sidewalks have slowed vehicle speed and improved safety, which is again just what our intent was. Second, we're doing extensive repaving and sidewalks. More than 24 streets were repaved last year alone as part of the city's annual repaving program, along with new sidewalks on South Avenue and more planned this year. On Fishkill and Teller Avenue, this spring we will begin a full rehabilitation of Fishkill and Teller Avenue. The city administrator tells me that we're going out to bid this week. Okay, if things work. And that's going to be from the city limit on Route 52 to George Washington Bust on Teller Avenue, including new sidewalks in the entire distance. It is a $10 million investment, 20 years in the making. Yeah, we started 20 years ago working on it, and now we're getting there, at almost no city cost. So the city portion of it is virtually none. It's because we've secured funding for all the pieces. There's a new central fire station going in, so after 2 decades of study, we've begun renovation and expansion of the Tompkins Hose Fire Station on 9D into a state-of-the-art central fire station while maintaining full firefighting coverage during construction. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Isn't that cool? Right, so this is Tompkins Hose, you know, that kind of beige, gicky building across the street that is going through its removal of hazmat materials. And that's what it's supposed to look like. So there'll be 3 new bays and on the left, and then a rehab of the building. We're also working on dams. We did upgrades of 2 dams. The Pocket Dam and the Mount Beacon Dam are almost complete. Other dams and our wells are slated for improvement. The city continues to invest millions of dollars in city drinking water, sewer, and treatment and stormwater systems. And then finally, last but not least, the 2 dummies up on the top right in the picture, no, I'm sorry, the dummy light in the top right of the picture was restored and reinstalled by our great highway department staff depicted there. So that's just some of the pieces. If you look at the photos, the Main Street repaving on the left, some of the bump outs as well, the dam improvements, and then also just repaving underneath that. If you could go forward, and we'll keep going. So let's go to quality of life. The city has made substantial advances in quality of life initiatives in our community, funded in part from new construction that adds to our property tax base. We continue to implement the city's comprehensive plan, including ensuring Main Street's recovery and long-term success, and increasing affordable units and live-work options. On Main Street, in my first month as mayor, I created an ad hoc committee to look at Main Street improvements, including access, parking, and walkability. Several quick wins, like better parking signs, side street stop signs, pedestrian crossings, and bump outs that slow traffic are already in place. More to come. Parks and Recs investment. We have reopened public bathrooms in our parks for the first time in a generation. The mayor's budget continues to expand recreation and community programs and facilities faster than any other city department, and we recently completed a 1,000 resident survey that will guide future services. Again, more to come. Trees, we included in the budget increased funding for tree and planting and maintenance, and funded local groups like our Green Teens to install pollinator patches at city properties. You can see some of those in the photos. There's Green Street Park in the middle and the right. There's several of our aerials of our parks. There's new sidewalks on South Avenue down on the bottom in the center, and some of the pollinator, nope, these are parks. Pollinators are on another page, I think. So, let's keep going. Rail Trail and Greenway, working with the county and other communities, we are about to begin planning for a new rail trail which will run from the Beacon train station along Fishkill Creek to Hopewell Junction. We are making progress on the mayor's concept of creating a Greenway loop trail on the east side of Fishkill Creek as well. We successfully relocated the Beacon Farmers Market to a larger location on Main Street. Oh, that's what the top left is. That's the Farmers Market. Helping to make it one of the Valley's best markets. We launched community investment grant programs to support local nonprofit programs and initiatives, and provided funding and logistical support for food assistance programs during the height of COVID. We've also tightened up some of our zoning. We had focused rezoning efforts to the benefit of the city. On Main Street, the city now requires developers to offer public benefits such as affordable housing or public space in return for a 4th floor in a new development. Along Fishkill Creek and the Hudson, we require 25% commercial space minimums for new construction. And again, the focus here is either on affordable or jobs or open space or public benefits. Short-term rental enforcement. We we led the valley in rezoning that limits short-term rentals, like Airbnb, to owner-occupied only, which will keep apartments for long-term residents. The city is invested in identifying out-of-compliance rentals and launched increased monitoring and enforcement. The mayor's budget added funding for tenant advisory services in partnership with the legal services of the Hudson Valley to help address evictions upon expiration of state and federal programs. Beacon is a leader in affordable housing and is looking for smart ways to do more. Fully 30% of Beacon's rental units are in affordable housing programs. Only the city of Poughkeepsie is higher in the county in that percentage. The city sold the lot next to City Hall, resulting in more than 70 new affordable units, significantly exceeding a county study that set Beacon's annual goal at 5, not 70. And we are exploring additional rezoning and other opportunities this year. And then finally, the city added multiple Main Street properties to our historic property protection zone and defined protected view sheds to preserve critical viewpoints around the city. Now let's talk about climate change. So, we as a city and I personally are committed to Beacon becoming the greenest community in the Hudson Valley and a leader in sustainability, and we are doing just that. So first, we have transitioned the entire city government's power to 100% renewable electricity, generated largely from the city's solar farm on our own landfill and augmented by the purchase of renewable energy credits. The city will also be installing a solar array atop the city's highway garage later this year. Our central fire station renovation, the one across the street at Tompkins Hose, will be 100% all electric with geothermal heat pumps from underground wells in the repaved parking lot. We will do the same for other city facilities on a cost-effective basis. We started a green fleet policy for the city, and we've now added both all-electric and hybrid electric city vehicles, replacing the most heavily used vehicles first and looking to add more over time. EV charging stations, we've installed electric vehicle charging stations at multiple city lots and will be adding more at City Hall and the new Central Fire Station. Dance camera plant. So I personally drafted and frequently testified the city's opposition to a new gas-fired power plant at the Dance Camera facility, which is across the river and visible from Seeger Riverfront Park. I repeatedly testified as mayor at public hearings in opposition. The plant was denied permits to move forward. Earlier achievement of the New York State climate goals is one of our goals. So with the City Council, we set a goal of achieving the New York State's aggressive climate goals sooner than the rest of the state and are on track to do that. More to come. We were one of the first communities in the state to add a climate smart coordinator, who works with the mayor, administrator, and our conservation advisory committee to achieve our climate and other goals. We achieved silver status in 2000, one of the only 2 cities to achieve silver status as a climate smart community in New York, the highest designation at the time. And then last year, the city piloted a municipal composting program with both central drop-off locations and backyard compost bins, which composted more than 20,000 pounds of waste and is expanding this year. Finally, let's see what we got for pictures. Anything good? Can you back up, Ben? So Green Team is over here, recycling on the bottom right and composting top left, and some electric vehicles in the top center. Okay. Oh, that's our solar grid in the middle, in case you were wondering. All right, let's go on to good government. So Beacon's city charter created a part-time mayor and a full-time qualified city administrator. I believe taxpayers and employees deserve a professionally run city, one that uses taxpayer funds effectively, that empowers department managers, and that develops our employees. Some of the things that we've done: our city administrator negotiated fair multi-year agreements with all 3 city unions, providing predictability of cost and lower legal expense. The mayor's I had a proclamation that recognized Juneteenth as an official city holiday, and it is now included as a paid holiday for all of our employees. We hired the first human resources director for the city to effectively support our 130 full-time employees plus seasonal and part-time workforce. As mayor, I have focused on successfully attracting and hiring a core team of well-trained managers, including our city administrator and our HR director. And with their help, we've hired many new department heads, including a new police chief, a new wastewater treatment plant operator, a new building inspector, and soon a new fire chief. Not only do we do our hires at the top, we also increase our diversity in all of our hires. Our new city employees, including both police and fire departments, continue to become more diverse and representative of our community while making us all safer and delivering outstanding services. And then finally, let's just talk about our website. During COVID, the city began accepting online water and tax bills while keeping our City Hall payment window open. We expect electronic billing and more over time. We also consolidated previous department websites into a new central website, www.beaconny.gov. In closing, as I said at the outset, the state of the city is excellent. I am proud of the work that we have accomplished together as a community. There's a lot that I put in this. There's a lot more that we didn't. We try to prioritize, and we try to do our best to do the most important things. We don't get to them all. We have to say no to some things. But there's a lot on the table here. Of course, there is more to do, but let's take a moment to appreciate what has been done. I want to thank the City Council for, we work together. I am a single vote, and we get, 6 and 7 of us, hopefully, most of the time. The employees of the city, including our department heads, our city administrator, Chris White, and others who make it all happen, as well as the residents who volunteer their time for the city and the community in a myriad of ways. I love Beacon. It has been my deep commitment of community service across 4 decades. It is an honor to serve you as mayor. Thank you. All right, we can get back to normal now. I want to thank the council for its patience and attention. So I believe the next order of business is public comment. So if you've signed up, and we have 1 signed up, you can speak on any topic you like except the public hearing. We have a public hearing on a pilot agreement for Tompkins Hose, but on any other topic, you're welcome to spend up to 3 minutes. And Teresa Kraft.
I was hoping for a crowd to follow. We could say all we want, but the quality of life is teetering in Beacon for most residents. Daily, the sirens are getting louder and more frequent. We can no longer push it under the rug. The new construction may have reduced overall city taxes, but I, like many, believe it came at enormous, irreplaceable cost and the loss of our historic streetscapes. Let's not sell out to the highest bidders on what's left. Let's keep some. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all that's signed up. If anyone else in the public space here, the physical space, wants to speak, you've got to take 3 minutes. Tell us who you are, where you live.
Try to get the time right. Mr. Mayor, you're to be congratulated on your presentation. It's far from perfect, but it's an honest appraisal in what you believe in, I'm sure. And to that, respect is extended. Let me try to frame this in the context of ordinary life in Beacon. One of the most outrageous things I noticed most recently was I went to get a box. Boyfriend was in town and wanted some honey bunch of oats. And the large box was $9.49. And then I compared it to Walmart, and it was, almost half cheaper. Ran out of cranberry sauce, love cranberry sauce, bought cheap turkeys. went to the store. $3.79. Checked the price at Walmart and the ShopRite was $1.99. Planning and economic savvy would allow a competitor. And I encourage the city to identify a parcel to promote competitive grocery shopping in the city. And while we're at comparing, I invite the public to look at Dutchess County Parcel Explorer and look at the assessments and the data per square foot and acreage of the Family Dollar parcel and of the supermarket I just spoke of. They have something in common, and that is, well, one, we don't have the full chart filled out in terms of the attributes, when it was purchased and all that, but that's an old story, right, Mayor? But, when we start to look at the value of land, which is not depreciable for the collection of federal tax dollars, and then contrast it to really the real value going to the owner, when we look at the depreciated value of the asset. Our property records say that the store is in poor condition and Family Dollar is in better condition. Rather, the grocery store. Now, I'm not trying to jam up and enter into private business and all that, but it's your job, through your assessor, to understand the economic distinctions as to how these systems work and don't work. Because in the end, it destroys the quality of life just on the mere instance of going to the grocery store.
Thank you. Anyone else in the physical public want to make a comment? This is your opportunity. Hearing none. Ben, anyone out in the electronic audience?
If you're on Zoom and you'd like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand option at the bottom of your screen. If you're on a phone, you can press *9 and you will need to push *6 to unmute once called upon. And if you're watching on YouTube, you will need to join us on Zoom by visiting beaconny.gov. Right now we have one hand raised, and that is Christine Wong.
Okay.
Hi.
All right,
Hi. This is Christine Wong of Beacon. Good evening. Oh, I don't see you already. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Yep.
we can hear you.
Okay, great. As a Taiwanese American, the recent mass shootings in California during one of the most important holidays in the Asian communities has caused deep disturbance and confusion in me. I cannot represent all AAPI members of the community, as everyone has their own way to process information. For me and some of our fellow AAPI friends here in Beacon, the incidents are too close to home. My father lives only 7 minutes drive from Star Ballroom, Monterey Park, which is the first mass shooting site. He's fine, by the way, but also shocked to learn the deep sea turbulence in his neighborhood. That said, I'm asking the city councils and the mayor to commit to strengthening mental health resources available to our community, such as by strengthening the Human Rights Commission so that they can have more capability to reach our community, to offer support to us, and to work with the police department to expand the mental health specialist unit, which I am very appreciative of, and to continue to fight against assault weapons and violence. I encourage the city and everyone here to take a moment to check in on your AAPI family, friends, colleagues, and everyone. I cannot guarantee that you will receive a thankful return, but your checking in might bring light to one who's confused in the dark. And I wish everyone a healthy and prosperous year of the rabbit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else, Ben?
There are no further hands raised on Zoom at this time.
Okay. There'll be a second opportunity for public comments for anyone who didn't speak in the first. And then let's go on to public hearings. We have a single public hearing on proposed renovations and a pilot agreement for Tompkins Terrace housing development. Chris, do you want to introduce that, and then we'll open it up?
Sure. So we have a public hearing that we set this evening on proposed renovations and a payment in lieu of taxes, otherwise known as a pilot agreement, with Related Affordable, which owns Tompkins Terrace. For those of you who are just tuning in, we did a presentation on January 17th from Related Affordable. We also discussed it at last week's workshop. The council asked for a formal public hearing, so we've set that up this evening. The pilot would continue Tompkins Terrace being affordable over a 40-year term agreement. It would basically lock in the amount that they pay now, which is based on a percentage of their gross rents. It would raise from $290,000 the first year to $310,000, so there's a little bit of a bump. That amount goes to the 4 taxing jurisdictions: the city, the school district, the county, and the library. Over the 40 years, it would go up 2.25% every year. In exchange, they are going for low-income tax credits so they can invest $14.5 million in renovating the 193 affordable apartments there. They would do about $75,000 of work in each unit, including replacing kitchens, bathrooms, energy efficiency upgrades, windows, and basically give this facility, which was built in 1973, kind of an extended life because it's getting a little worn out. The other thing that the agreement would lock in is that there would be no displacement of the people living at this at the complex. So during the construction, they would be put up in other housing, but they would have a right to return to their units. Tonight we're going to do a public hearing on that. Based on what comes out of that, we hope to bring to you a draft agreement next week for the workshop.
So, Nick, do we have to open the public hearing with a vote on this issue?
No, I would say, Mayor, that given this is a informal public hearing, you can just go ahead and proceed to see if anyone wishes to provide public comment.
Okay, great. That's what I was figuring. Thank you, Nick. This is an opportunity for the public, if you have any comments on the proposed pilot agreement with Tompkins Terrace Housing Development and the city, this is your opportunity to speak.
Building on the theme a minute ago, when one looks at the assessor's records for this particular parcel, you will note that the 16-acre parcel has a land value that really hides the value of the asset and a key part of the metrics. Fundamental land valuation or property valuation would hold that a property new is worth that plus land value, whatever cost to construct. An old one would be depreciated, let's just say 50%, and then whatever cash flow comes off on top of that falls to the land value. The reason why it's really not done in New York is because you can't depreciate that value of land value. It doesn't get depreciated for federal tax purposes, so everyone just shuts their eyes. The equations of creating affordable housing are complex. The simple equations are simple. HUD does these kinds of deals at 15 and 20 years. They don't do them for 40 for good reason. I don't have the time to explain to you why. But one of them is, you know what? You put in new kitchens, what are you going to do 20 years from now? Now, the particular proposal is hard to understand when the owner bought the property because the tax records don't show any recent purchase but 2007, and I could be wrong, and maybe they've owned it since 2007. But I do know one thing. There was quite a controversy several years ago, I would surmise 18, 19, where a lot of tenants were being evicted. The varying housing programs and the complexities that lie behind is, in fact, an environmental event. Now, I'm not confident that you need to get an environmental impact statement to get into this deal. But I do know that longstanding policy is if you need outside consultants, the applicant pays. I would have suggested it and asked a couple questions if I was permitted status equal to the tenants at your meeting last week, and I was told that I couldn't ask the questions that tenants were able to, and it was quite a dog and pony show. Mr. Mayor, am I 3 minutes or 5 or 4?
Ben's keeping tabs.
No, I mean, how many minutes?
I think it's a public hearing. You've got 5.
Thank you. So when you cobble together the learning opportunity the council has to understand and ferret and get involved in the dollars, the numbers, I've long suggested you do that with any public housing development in the last 20 years in the city, just to look at the profiles, understand and get involved. Because if you do, then you can build. Instead, we're letting the largest landlord in America, one of the largest property owners in America, do it for you. If you're comfortable with that, that's fine. I'm not. Because I'm a person who would like to develop their land. I'm a person that has long said to you that I would like to be able to create a circumstance of easy home ownership. I gave you the numbers. I gave you a sketched out thing only because I didn't feel as though I needed to spend time doing it more. Why? Because you need to kind of put your head into it and say, well, what that area? What does that mean? How does that work? What's his thinking? What are the components? How do they come together? And if you don't, then you don't have a darn idea of what you're being asked to vote on. My perspective is an environmental impact statement is needed because it's a long-term tax situation. They're investing allegedly $1.4 million in property. I don't know what benefit that is. They say there's going to be 40 full-time jobs. Give them each $100,000 a year. Look up the statistics in terms of standards of how much labor is a percentage of construction, and you'll find that maybe it's a $10 million project and not a 40. I got 457, so I'll thank you, Mayor.
All right.
Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Stick around. Teresa Kraft. This is a sweet deal, but for who? Not for all the residents of the city. As a private company in a brief span, Related can legally apply to increase rents, which can boost their bottom line. I understand the city administrator is pushing to lock in affordable housing for 40 years, but what about the other subsidized and affordable housing projects dispersed around the city of Beacon? What additional help is the city giving them? We heard some residents speak highly during the applicant's presentation, and the notion of apartment renovations is music to their ears. But many others have faced a multitude of issues under the last property owner who also gave them promises. Like other affordable housing developers and experts, Related understands the purchasing properties and renovating them with tax credits is very profitable. A Section 8 property like the units at Tompkins Terrace brings in even more cash, thanks to the high guaranteed rent subsidies from the county and state. Many subsidized and affordable housing properties are owned by for-profit developers, And unlike a nonprofit or publicly held company, they are not required to reveal their balance sheets. Who's profiting? Is anyone on council or any other politicians profiting? Are the city's favorite developers going to profit from this, similar to Beacon's urban renewal? The predictions are in. The bubble is going to burst, maybe not this year or in the next few years, but who could forecast 40 years? 40 years is a lifetime. Some of you are not even 40 years old. Why would this municipality give the keys to our city away to somebody like this? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on this public hearing? Anyone in the electronic audience, Ben?
Yes, we do have one hand raised on Zoom. That's Mr. Mart. I'm allowing him to speak now. Mr. Mart, whenever you're ready.
Hi.
Hey, Michael.
Sorry, I'm not Mr. Mark, but
Oh,
I
my mistake. Thank you for joining us.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, I'm a Ward 3 resident, and I sent you an email about this, but it was right before the meeting, so I just wanted to quickly reiterate that I really appreciate your commitment to providing and keeping our affordable housing for our residents. But I do share some similar concerns to Mr. Gebman of why are we signing off on a 40-year deal in exchange for one renovation? Surely the property is going to deteriorate multiple times during this 40 years, and can we build into this deal a way to guarantee that there will be multiple periodic updates to the property throughout those 40 years? I also share Teresa's concern that this is a for-profit company, and I would like to know that the representatives of the taxpayers and the residents of Tompkins Terrace, which are you guys, are going to be at least as savvy and discerning as your partners to the deal, and make sure that you're representing our interests and our residents' interests, and that you understand fully the financial implications of your decisions. And I really appreciate that, even though this is not a real public hearing, I appreciate that, unlike the Mirabel pilot, you decided to open this to the public. I want to thank all the council members that advocated for that, because I think it's really important. I would appreciate it if you even did more advocacy to get people to understand that there is something important happening, just like when you advocated for the good cause eviction, because this is an important decision and people need to understand it. And with all due respect, I think you also need to understand it very deeply, because we're talking about 40 years and a lot of money. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We do have another hand raised now on Zoom. That's Arthur Kamens. Mr. Kamens, you can now speak.
Good evening, everyone. I haven't followed all the intricacies of this pilot agreement. I just want to reiterate two concerns which I hope will be addressed before the agreement is signed. One, given the past history there of the prior owner, I want to hope you will be assured of continued adequate maintenance there. And second, continued affordability. And without which I think, the agreement needs to be redone if those assurances aren't there. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have no further hands raised on Zoom.
Okay. I will just close the public hearing since.
And Mayor, may I just put some context here, they are currently taxed based on their gross rents. If nothing was to change right now, that would stay roughly what it is today, $290,000. They're going to, parts of that complex are coming off the affordability programs. So they could take this market rate. Some of the, and again, we have Justin Glanda here from Related Affordable. We're not getting a renovation for a 40-year agreement. We're getting 40 years of this remaining affordable and not going to market. If this goes to market, those rents are going to skyrocket. And as they come out of the affordability programs, people will be displaced from where they live. That's the primary thing here. You're also locking in an increase. Their taxes could go down now if people of lower income move in and their gross rents actually go down. So these things do vary. And we do these same agreements with the Beacon Housing Authority, Meadow Ridge, Highland Meadow. It's based on 10% of their gross rents. This guarantees that these rents are going to go up by a modest, not the rents, but the taxes to the city that are paid in lieu of taxes will go up in a predictable manner, and you make sure that that people who live there are going to be able to stay there and that those units will stay affordable. It doesn't mean that this is the last time that this gets renovated in the next 40 years. Again, these low-income tax credits help them do that now and invest in it. But again, if nothing happens, this comes out of affordability within 10 years, Justin, is it? 15 years?
I would have to check the documents.
But again, the 40 years means, like a lot of affordable housing is time limited. And if you don't extend these agreements, then they go to market. If other pilots come up, we would certainly try to lock other housing complexes in as well. One of the things about affordable housing is maintaining it after the original agreements have expired. So I just wanted to make that note.
So I'll add one thing. I remember doing the calculation that the pilot grows 2.25% a year. So if the question is asked, will that keep up with our tax increases? It really depends on the people at the table. So if we stay under the state's cap of 2%, then growing at 2.25% will do the trick. If we have to increase it above the state's cap, then they'll get that advantage, right? So the reason they're proposing that is they need the stability. They can't make the deal work without a combination of public funding, public bonding, and the tax credits, and then that stability. So just to offer up 2.25% a year is the growth of the pilot.
And there's a jump of $20,000 the first year.
Right.
So it goes from $290,000 to $310,000 the first year.
One thing I would add to it sort of relatedly, and I know this isn't a formal public hearing, but if we could actually frame it as keeping the public hearing open, my understanding is we're going to discuss this in workshop next week, not today, and then we would bring back for any vote. The earliest would be our next public meeting, so it could be another item that we add to that agenda, just because the residents or anyone else who, after especially next week's workshop, has further thoughts that we can share it before we vote. So if we're able to add it as an item to our next public hearing, that would be my preference. To our next public voting meeting on the 13th.
So let me just suggest, since it's not a formal public hearing, that people could just use their public comment remarks, right? I mean, I don't know how Nick, is there a difference between public comment on this event or a hearing? If it's informal?
There is not, Mayor, is because this is not a legal public hearing. It's not, the council's not required to do this, and you're going above and beyond by providing this opportunity. Whether it's a hearing or it's held at the public comment session, it's the same. It's giving input to the council members. So that opportunity would be provided.
All right. I'm happy to encourage people to make comments at the next meeting. Not a problem at all. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
I guess the one difference is the comment period, that you get 3 minutes versus 5 minutes. Would we say that if you're talking about this particular topic, you get 5 minutes?
The chair has that discretion, yes.
So tonight was pretty light, so I didn't mind.
Yeah, I think also because of the timing, I'm not sure if they're able to make it known to everyone at Tompkins Terrace who might have had thoughts about it, positive or otherwise, just like we saw last week. So just wanting to make sure that people feel, because I agree, a 40-year commitment, even one that really reflects our values, is a serious undertaking, and so I want them to feel like we listen to them, as one of the commentators already said.
Okay, sounds fine to me. All right, are we good? Let's go on. So we have reports. Let's start. Who wants to start? What end of the table wants to start with council reports?
I'll start.
Okay.
So thank you first, Christine Huang, for your comments, recognizing and speaking out against the violence against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, and on behalf of gun control, and for lifting up Beacon's Human Rights Commission, and also on behalf of For Neighbors reaching out to help each other. Much appreciated. I just wanted to report that I've met recently with the Beacon Human Rights Commission, and they're looking for members. I know that the city administrator and Ben are working toward publicizing which of our committees are looking for members, and we've been voting in on expiring membership for committee members. So I just wanted to state that publicly, that the Human Rights Commission is looking for members. And they've accomplished a lot and look to accomplish more. They're beginning to think about Pride 2023, and I learned that Beacon Pride actually received a proclamation from the state for last year, and I just felt so proud and happy for the work that's been done to achieve that. And I hope that the city can continue to deepen our involvement with the HRC, both helping to get the HRC pledge out and yeah, just celebrating Pride together. Their main takeaway is that they are preparing and are prepared to present their annual report, which is a requirement of that commission. And they are hoping to be added to the workshop in March. So that's something, one of the workshops in March. So that's something I'd like to request, and if any of the other council would also like to hear that report in March at a workshop, please make it known. And I continue to be available for office hours. You can reach me at wlongno@beaconny.gov to schedule something. I had been holding Wednesdays, but they're coming up all around the week, so anytime is fine. And that's all from me. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, Ren. I would also love to have the HRC report, their annual report, in person this year. Last year it was emailed to us, which was helpful, but having the public conversation about the work that they're doing, given also the public messaging behind the HRC, I think would be really beneficial. And I also wanted to thank Christine for bringing forward these issues around the AAPI community. I don't talk a lot about my own Asian heritage, but I am Japanese American. In the Japanese tradition, we celebrate New Year's on the Gregorian calendar, January 1st. But I did go to an elementary school that had a Chinese bilingual program, and my sister is half Chinese, which I just say to illustrate that I was raised on celebrations of the Lunar New Year. And as I am wont to do, I think it's also worth noting that the indigenous peoples of this land celebrate the Mohican New Year on the lunar cycle as well. And as Christine said, it's particularly heartbreaking to have a community tragedy like what happened in Half Moon Bay and Monterey Park in California on what is supposed to be a really joyous time of year. The Year of the Rabbit is meant to celebrate peace and hope. It's also the year of the cat, which is a symbol of good luck, and to have a community faced with gun violence in such a violent way is really heartbreaking. And so, as Christine said, I encourage you to reach out to people that you know in this community, the same as following any tragedy, including the very public killing of Tyree Nichols, and reaching out to your friends in the Black community. And I'm saying all of this a bit because I think that in the same way that it's important to sort of recognize the humanity of the people on this side of the table, and not just for the office that we hold, which we take very seriously, that our city is also not just our core infrastructure, which, as the mayor illustrated earlier, is something that we spend a lot of time on, a lot of energy on, and is doing quite well. But our city is also the people who live here and work here and interact and have relationships here. And I think that, the HRC will probably reflect this, that the more we can embrace the things that make us different, and don't try to keep everything and everyone in tidy boxes, the healthier we will all be. I think that's part of the message around mental health, is about supporting all of the facets of ourselves and the people around us. And so I hope that we can bring that mentality to other parts of how we operate here, in addition to keeping the buses on time and the roads paved. Thank you.
Thanks. George?
Good evening. I just wanted to bring to the attention of the community a website that I became aware of by listening to a program on National Public Radio. It's called rewiringamerica.org. It's all one word. And what it does is it helps individuals navigate through all of the opportunities for solar and changing out heating systems. And so it also helps municipalities as well to kind of reduce our dependence on fossil fuels. So as we as a community start to develop legislation that would ensure that future, there's many things out there that we can currently do that are incentivized and supported by the government through the Inflation Reduction Act. There's billions of dollars there. And I just looked through it, and there's money out there, significant monies for solar, for heat pumps, for if you're changing an old gas boiler or oil boiler. There's money right now that you can take advantage of. So please, everyone look at that. It's called rewiringamerica.org. I think it's a really valuable asset, and it's money that's accessible immediately. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, George.
I want to start by congratulating the Howland Public Library for going fine-free. I think that is a huge accomplishment towards equity in our community, and as somebody that's been working in libraries for a decade. I've seen the way that fines can be a barrier to people, getting people in and getting people to continue to come to the library, where libraries are one of the few places these days where you can go and not be expected to pay for anything. And I'm really proud to be in a community with the library that is working so hard to build and maintain community and help serve their community however they can. So I just want to give a special shout out to them, and also say that the Howland Public Library is offering free COVID test kits while supplies last. I just want to make a little public safety announcement. as it looks like the weather is going to start to get colder this week, and I mean we are in winter, so if you do have plans on going away, make sure that you keep your heat on, or make sure that you check the temperature in your house before you go, because you just do what you can to avoid having pipes freeze and burst. Unfortunately, the city's seen some incidents where that's resulted really badly, and we want to avoid that as much as possible for everybody's sake. So yes, that's all I got.
Thanks, Justice. A couple of things. I might end up having more formal office hours or specific ones in the month of February, but before I announce those, if you just want to reach out to me over my email at mrhodes, R-H-O-D-E-S, @beaconny.gov, I'm happy to meet with you or talk with you either in person or over the phone or over email at your convenience. And in particular, because I represent Ward 1, that's where Tompkins Terrace is located. So if you are either a resident of Tompkins Terrace or have a connection with there, simply really interested in it, I'm happy to connect with you. It's an area that I am in the process of learning about based on what I know already and building on that, so I'm happy to learn more alongside you. And I also want to thank Christine, who commented in bringing up about the AANPI community and the incidents in California, and particularly in connecting it both to the general connection, how we care about our community, and about what are things that we as the city can be doing to improve mental health. And when I think of what happened to Tyree Nichols and how he was killed, also how we have our own police department here and how we're going to hear a report about reforming then. Luckily, we have not had an incident so horrific any time in our recent past, and I think there's also an opportunity to continue to improve relationships throughout the community that I know that the police department is also really keen to do as well. So as tragic as these situations are, I hope that we all as a community keep moving forward to the place that we want to build together. And I will pass it to you, Lee.
Thanks, all. I always appreciate the remarks that you all offer. I won't go into them. I'll just offer one thing. So there was a hearing today by the New York State Independent Redistricting Commission, which concerned assembly districts. There's a proposal by the commission to create an assembly district that has Beacon with Cold Spring and a portion of Putnam and Westchester, and I submitted the following testimony. So Chairman Jenkins and members of the New York Independent Redistricting Commission regarding Mid-Hudson Assembly District with Beacon, Newburgh, and Poughkeepsie. Good afternoon. I am Lee Kiriakou, Mayor of the City of Beacon, a small city of 14,000 on the Hudson River, 60 miles north of New York City. The City of Beacon is directly across the Hudson from the larger city of Newburgh and a short distance south of the Hudson, on the Hudson from the larger city of Poughkeepsie, our Dutchess County seat. These three cities have been linked for generations by physical proximity and geography, by transportation links, and by commonality of demographics, economics, and community. Interstate 84 crosses the Hudson between Newburgh and Beacon. Beacon and Poughkeepsie are two of the largest Metro-North train stations north of the Hudson Line's Croton Hub. The Beacon train station connects to the Newburgh waterfront by community ferry. The Port Authority Stewart Airport in Newburgh serves the region. The three cities have long histories as mid-Hudson economic centers, factory communities, and when the factories closed, as poorer urban centers with aging infrastructure and economic development needs. All three cities have high percentages of various affordable housing programs. Beacon is now enjoying an economic renaissance with benefits spilling over to Newburgh as well as Poughkeepsie. These and multiple other connections between the three cities readily demonstrate a deep and long-standing community of interest, which has been represented collectively in the New York State Assembly. As mayor of the city of Beacon, I would appreciate the Assembly keeping the three cities of Beacon, Newburgh, and Poughkeepsie within a single assembly district consistent with long-standing assembly representation. Thank you. Respectfully submitted by me. And that's all I got. So, Chris, anything you want to put in?
I'd just like to announce that the city is co-sponsoring a blood drive this Friday, February 3rd, from 11:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. over at the West Center Street Recreation Center at 23 West Center Street. This time of year, blood is especially prone to shortages, so if anyone out there wants to donate, just come over. You can go on our website and sign up very easily. So if you go on our website, there's a form that you can, it'll take you to the form. That's all I have.
Okay.
I was shocked to learn I'm too short to donate.
I think you're too short to donate twice. So I think they have
Yeah.
this option now where you can give double the amount that is normal, but you have to weigh a certain amount, I guess, and
Okay.
you and I don't.
It's called Power Red, so there is a height restriction on that. But for normal blood donation, you would be
good.
fine. Yeah.
Okay.
I had one more announcement that I forgot, if that's okay.
Sure.
Which is asking the community to save the date of Saturday, February 25th. This will be the date of the Beacon Spring, planned date for the Beacon Spring celebration, which Christine, who we heard from, and community member Jessica Jelliff organize. This will be the second year. It's planned for in between the Lunar New Year and the spring equinox, and is meant as a community celebration welcoming in the sunnier days. And it will start at Pole Hill Park at sundown and process with lanterns along the sidewalks of Main Street.
That's Saturday, February 25th.
Yes.
Cool. All right. Are we ready for local resolutions? We have actually the only items, there are 7. They're all appointments. 4 of them are reappointments and 3 are new appointments. How should we handle them? One at a time? Should we do them collectively?
One at a time.
Okay. So the first one is reappointing Sergei Krasikov to the Conservation Advisory Commission. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion. Second.
We all like
Love
Sergey.
So Justice and Ren, is that okay? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you for your service, Sergey. Reappointing Eleanor Peck to the Conservation Advisory Committee.
Motion?
Second.
So Justice, and this time, how about Paloma?
Me.
All right.
I love Eleanor as much as I love Sergey, so I'll take it.
Eleanor was our first climate smart coordinator until she took a position with the Hudson Valley something. Planning Association? No, Regional
Council.
Yeah. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. The third one's reappointing Phil Stamatis to the Conservation Advisory Committee.
Motion.
Second.
So that's Ren and Paloma. Any discussion?
Phil is also great and did an incredible amount of work on our composting pilot program in particular, in addition to being a great member of the CAC.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Efkari Stowe for your service, Phil. The next one is reappointing Peter Bailey to the Tree Advisory Committee.
Motion? Second.
All right, who wants it?
I'll second.
So Ren and Justice, is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion?
I think Pete is absolutely wonderful. I've seen him in the Tree Advisory Committee meetings. He is a wonderful service to the community, and I'm grateful to have him.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you, Pete. And then 3 new ones. First one is appointing May Sharif to the Conservation Advisory Committee.
Motion.
All right.
Second.
So that was Molly and Justice. And any discussion?
I really appreciate the wastewater skills and thinking about long-term feasibility and sustainability that May brings.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. The next one is appointing James Burton to the Conservation Advisory Committee. Can I get a motion and a second on that one?
Motion.
Second.
So that was Ren and Paloma. Any discussion?
Just that he's been attending CAC meetings for a while, and he's always had interesting contributions. So great for him to formally be a part of the committee.
Oh, this is the one with the UK education, right? Dundee and Scotland. Interesting.
Yeah, he's also, I think, spoken at public comment.
Got it.
Here.
All right. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Welcome aboard. And the last one is Justine Bienkowski to the Conservation Advisory Committee.
Motion?
Second.
So that's Molly and Ren. Any discussion? I guess not, so all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. We need someone to make a motion to approve the minutes of January 17th.
Motion?
Molly
Second.
and Justice. And any additions, corrections?
Right at the end, it says opportunity. I think it's on the wrong line. It says opportunity adjournment. It's right before our adjournment, so it's not really we need to correct that, but maybe just for clarity's sake.
So it looks like the word opportunity goes in the prior line where it says public comment, second opportunity, and the word adjournment then follows that on a separate line.
Correct, yes.
Okay. So other than that slight correction, anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so this is the second opportunity for public comment. If there's anyone out there who hasn't spoken, who would like to speak, this is the opportunity. You get up to 3 minutes. Anyone in the physical presence of the meeting tonight? So we're down to Faye and Nick in the back. All right, we're good?
Calling on people.
Yeah, I know who you are. I know where you live. All right. Ben, we got anyone in the electronic audience?
No hands raised online.
So I will look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion?
George and Molly, any discussion? Do we need a public hearing on this one? We okay? All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed?
Aye.
All right. Thank you all so much for your attention this evening, and have a good night.
Have a good night.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Record.
I can just feel that.